Hey, everybody, welcome back. It is the Razzball Fantasy Baseball Podcast. I am Beat joined by the Fantasy Master Lothario, the mustachioed man of mystery. That's right. How you doing over there, Gray?
Hey, what's going on, B Don? What's the haps, brother?
Oh, not too much. It's an actual full week of work for me, which is like the first one I've had in like a month. So
I
this is gonna
I'm
be this is
B
gonna
Don,
be brutal.
B Don. It's a figure of speech. Me asking you what's going on.
No, you already know this. I am from the Midwest. If you ask me, I'm going to tell you something. Like I'm even
That's
cutting
where
it down from what I
that's
would
where
normally
the
tell you.
that's where the disconnect is because I'm from New York. We say, hey, what's going on? We don't actually care.
You don't say that. Don't lie. There's just kind of like a sneer and like maybe a middle finger, and you just keep walking. Like that's more New York City.
Yeah, yeah,
Nobody actually says hi. How are you doing in New
that's
York?
true.
Unless
It's
you're
hard.
buying
It's
something.
hard on a podcast to just sneer though. It doesn't come across as well.
We make sure everybody watches. If you just do like the sneer and the middle finger, and instead of saying hi,
as I
people like,
drink
"What's
my
going on?"
liquid as I drink my liquid death.
You still have those? I thought you had decided these were
It's
like a one time
awful, man.
experience.
It's so terrible. No, I bought too many. I'm trying to get through them. It's a long.
You bought the Costco pack of them. Now you got to deal with it.
Yeah, Whole Foods. I went the whole paycheck and I bought a bunch of like canned iced teas. Some of them are good. I bought here. Look, I got this one. This one's actually good. Seven. I like this one. If you're listening, head of Seven Marketing. And then I got Liquid Death, which is not good. Anyway, let's do the top 100.
Yeah, let's go ahead and get into it. Before we get into any of the players, I just wanted to walk through it so everybody can know how do you go about making your second half rankings. You can't just like take the first half player rater, copy paste it, but at the same time, you can't ignore when somebody's having a breakout first half. Where are you at? How do you balance like everything in regards to making up, hitters, pitch, all that? Like how do you go about it?
So so I got a really big hat, right? And I write everyone's name on it. And I put it in yeah, it's tough, man, because like you said, it's like you don't ignore guys who are doing well in the first half, but also there's some fluky ones in there. Like for instance, one guy who didn't make the top 100 is Lane Thomas, and he's actually at 15 overall on the player rater. It's really high. It's really high to ignore a guy doing that well. But like in for specifically for him, like I looked at his second half projections and it's like 10 homers, 5 steals, 250 average. And it's like, that's like basically like a good week from some players. So I just couldn't put him in I couldn't squeeze him in the top 100. I almost did, and we'll talk about it maybe later on with like some of the guys at the end of the list. Like if you were to take, a guy at like 85 and swap him out with a guy who's not even on the list, it's probably fine. Like it depends on needs at a certain point. Like if you were to take like Gunnar Henderson, who I believe is like at the bottom like 20, like if you were to take him and switch him out with Lane Thomas because you want runs and you trust the at bats for Lane Thomas over Gunnar Henderson because the Orioles lineup has a lot of guys, and yeah, I mean I'm not opposed to doing, making that switch overall. But, and a lot has to do with needs for your fantasy team for guys who are at like the second half of the top 100 because, like in a 2.5 month span, which is, the second half of the season, obviously I'm not breaking news here. It's shorter than the first half. It's like, I think it's like 75 games, maybe 70 games, something like that. So the fact that like, guys are in the, the guys in the second half, you have a good month. You have a good month of August, and suddenly you're going to be in the top 30 overall for the second half. And, there's no way to account for something like that. Like Eugenio Suarez, who's nowhere near the top 100. It wasn't even in consideration for the top 100. Like if he had like a 12 homer month of August, he would easily make the top 100. He'd probably make the top 50 overall for the second half. But, you can't account for that. And, similarly with the, the guys who had a great first half, you try and weigh it against like what a guy is going to do in the second half, and not like you can't disregard it completely, but you look at a guy who had like a great April, like a Matt Chapman, for instance. Like you see what happens. Like if he were to have had a great June into July instead of a great April, he might have made the top 100. But because he had a great April, that month, that's so far in the past now. Where it's like you try not to do too much recency bias, but it obviously weighs in a little bit. Like there's no way of ignoring, and that's just with hitters. With pitchers, or pitchers are a whole nother can of worms, because you have so many pitchers now that are just terrible. Even the good ones are terrible. Like you look at like a Max Scherzer on Sunday, right before the break, had like a 5-inning, 5 earned run start, and he's at like, I want to say maybe a 4, I don't have it in front of me, but say like a 4.2 ERA or something, 4.3 maybe, I don't know. It's just, he's not good. He wasn't great in the first half. But, history tells us he can be great for like 2 months at a time. And, if he's great in, August and September, he's going to be a top 100 guy and a top 20 pitcher. So you try and weigh that a little bit too, like what guys are capable of. And you look at other pitchers who are like, there's no track record for some pitchers. And it's like, well, if there's no track record on a guy, it's like, how much do I, consider the fact that he could tire, like a Jesus Luzardo, for instance, who could potentially get his innings capped, or a Tanner Beebe, who's got no track record and could have his innings capped. And it's like there's a lot of different, like it's really comes down to like specific players, and there's a lot of different factors into like going into it. And not to mention just the fact that it's a top 100 versus like in the preseason there's a top 500. So you're able to say like, okay, Lane Thomas didn't make the top 100, but he's at 110 overall. So, you can look at that and be like, okay, so he's still like better than a lot of guys. But when you only have a top 100 and everyone after the top 100 is just like one big giant pool of players, it's hard to say like, well, I don't like, is Lane Thomas then droppable because he's not in the top 100? No, he's not droppable. He just didn't make the top 100 because I don't really trust him in the second half. But if he's as good as he was in the first half, then sure, yeah, you can put him in at like 80. And that's for a lot of players who didn't make the top 100. Like I don't trust Tim Anderson necessarily because his first half was so awful. But if he has like a good month of August, if he shows like what he's capable of like, the last like 6-7 years, if he does that over the course of the second half, then yeah, he's a top 100 guy. But it's hard to say because he was so bad. But it's just like it's really a balancing act. Like the top 50 overall were, I mean, like I think I even mentioned in the top 100, I mentioned how like the top 50 is pretty stacked. Like there's not a ton of guys in the top 50 where I'm like, I don't really trust him like completely. but in the second half of the top 100, you get more like, yeah, I like Charlie Morton, but not that much, maybe. So I can't like, I don't know. It's like him or Justin Verlander, who had a terrible first half and his peripherals don't look good. Yeah, it's really kind of like just trying to balance out like expectations and what a guy has done in the previous, 2.5 months or whatever, 3 months.
Okay. So that was, an explanation of how everything kind of breaks down, where everything falls, and in regards to like the fact that it's a shorter time period, it means that like the projections are a lot tighter. So especially in that back end, like you mentioned, like the difference between who ends up 98th and who ends up like 105th could be like a home run or a stolen base or a couple of runs here or there. Like it could be very minimal what the difference is between, especially on the back end, what we're looking at. Because there's just, as you mentioned, there's variance in like who's going to have the good month. And then if you don't have like an amazing month, then the numbers kind of aren't all that impressive over the last 2.5 months that we have here, just because of the amount of time that we have versus what we've already kind of looked at. And then we're also used to thinking about things in a full season projection rather than, the kind of the sprint here to the end. So let's go ahead and get into it. Acuna, Ohtani, 1-2. No surprise there. We've talked about them. We're just going to move on. Tatis Jr. comes in at 3. And if you look at his stats since he's returned, he probably falls somewhere in the 5 to 10 range on the player rater, if not higher. So Tatis at 3 feels perfectly fine. Anything that you wanted to say about the top 3 here at all?
No. I mean, the top kind of 20 or so. I mean, there's so many. I almost want like a top 40 in the top 20. I mean, there's so many good players, and the top 3 are like. I mean, I mentioned it in the post, like the top 2, like Acuna and Ohtani are on another level, and then they really begin to get like a question mark of like I like Tatis at 3, but if someone wanted to say like Jose Ramirez or Betts or Wander or Julio Rodriguez or Matt Olson or like if someone wanted to say like if someone wanted to debate on 3, I could see it. I feel like Acuna and Ohtani though are like I mean there's no debate with those guys, right? I mean they are so obviously 1 and 2.
Yeah, absolutely. And Tatis at 3 makes sense just because he has the ability to put up a lot of home runs, a lot of stolen bases. I mean, he can do everything you possibly want that could help your team bounce
Yeah.
back. Like
And
he's going to do it.
right. And also like, prior to what was it, Thursday? Prior to this past Thursday, like I had written this up last like beginning of last week and beginning of last week to about like Thursday I was writing this up and I had Corbin Carroll at 3 overall and where Tatis is and I had Tatis at 4, but that swing on Thursday from Corbin Carroll has got me super like bummed out and scared. I'm worried, man. I dropped him way down because I can't imagine his shoulder stays together for the next 2.5 months. I mean, I hate to say that, but I just and if it was in the preseason, we would have spring training games to sort of gauge how he looks. So there would be that, but also like we'd have like we would have like a not only spring training games, we'd also have like his whole off season. So and we'd be able to feel out a little bit more with Corbin Carroll. And also if it was in the preseason, you would have a situation where it's like, okay, as long as he gets healthy by like May, we'd have like, 5 months still. But now, like if Corbin Carroll goes down like end of July and he misses August, there's only a month. Like you only have a month left. Like there's no time for him to like get healthy. So that's why I dropped him like 25 spots in the rankings. Unfortunately, I love Corbin Carroll, but I couldn't say like I would have him 3 over like all these other guys.
Yeah, that's fair. I know that just kind of looking at the listing, and I don't make second half rankings. I barely make, beginning of season rankings. It's just I don't like the rankings process. It always changes, and then like you get kind of take locked into whatever you have. But that's kind of what we're here for as well, to tell you what we think. I would have Corbin Carroll higher. That's just kind of how I play, though. I don't tend to worry about injuries as much as most people do. I would probably have him somewhere in the 10 to 15 range if I had to guess, just based on, again, the fact that he can put up so many numbers for you. Just the number of people who can do what he can do across this short span of time is a very limited list. So that's pretty much what I'm looking at and why I would have him higher. But I completely understand pushing him down because of the injury, because it looked absolutely dreadful when it happened, and you were kind of like you're writing this up as we're watching that happen. So it's hard to get past that mentally.
Yeah.
Um, Mookie at 4, he kind of had a very mediocre meh start to the season. In June, he hit 309, with 9 home runs and 5 stolen bases, which has put him right back up at the top of the player rater. Any concern over Mookie? He's kind of like, I feel like this is like Mookie's been up and down. It feels like it's usually season to season, but even within this season, he's kind of been like 3 different players.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know for sure if this is accurate, but I see that on the player rater, for the player rater, Mookie Betts is 4 overall, and then on the rest of the season player rater, Mookie Betts is 4 overall. I don't know if any other player is at the exact same spot for rest of the season as they are for what they've done up to now.
Probably one,
Well,
two.
I guess,
Acuna and
well,
Ohtani.
I guess Acuna. Well, Ohtani isn't. No, Tatis is above Ohtani on the
Even if
rest
you
of the season.
combine pitching and and
Oh,
hitting.
when you combine pitching and hitting, Ohtani actually might be number one
Yeah.
above Acuna. Yeah, so that's fair. You're right. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think with Mookie Betts, like everything is pointing to him being like, Dodger Stadium really became a great hitters park slash home run park about like 4 or 5 years ago. And yeah, I mean, Mookie Betts looks like he is like able to hit 15 homers at least in a half, and he has speed, and he's in a great lineup. So yeah, I don't really have much to say on Mookie Betts. He looks legitimate. I mean, it's kind of crazy, but he looks like he's on pace for a 40 homer, 15 steal season, which if you drafted Mookie Betts where he was going in the preseason, I'm sure you would take a 40-15 season from him. Yeah, I mean, he looks great to me. I don't know. I don't have any issues with Mookie Betts.
Yeah, it's a player that I like. I love him as a real life player, but and I think we said this on the preseason. We're looking at him like I just kind of like he never ends up on enough of my teams because he seems so like different season to season. It's kind of hard to project him out for what like you're gonna get from him. But yeah, I mean, if you told me we're gonna get 40, 12 to 15, like that sounds great. I feel like the changes to the rules have really helped him specifically keep the stolen base number up a little bit, just because he's such a smart player and he's so athletic. Like I that all that lends to him being able to kind of find his way into stolen bases. That being said, 5 of them came in 1 month. That does concern me a little bit. So I wonder if like the speed is necessarily going to stick around, but the rest of it, like it's there. He's going to get the runs, the RBIs, which are, certainly helping prop him up at number 4 right now. But that's not really changing. His batting position and the lineup's not changing. Like, he's going to be a good on-base guy. He always has been. So you can kind of count on that to stick around. If anything, it's just like the speed may not necessarily be there if that's what you're chasing. Adolis Garcia, I mean, we've been on him for seasons now. Keep getting told it's not going to happen. Now he's tied for 6th in home runs. He's fifth in runs, leader in RBIs. Are you concerned at all that stolen bases are down? It's tied more to like the runs RBIs than it has been in his previous seasons, where it's more power speed.
The only thing I'm really concerned with Adolis Garcia is like the people who don't believe in him suddenly start believing in him, and then he will become terrible. Once he has converted everyone, at that point he will become bad. So let's hope and pray there's still going to be people out there who don't believe in him. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's a little bit concerning that he hasn't been running as much, but in like today's game, like I feel like he could have a 10 steal month very easily and just like get right back on like a 20 steal pace, because like it's so easy to steal in today's game that like, I mean, I could see potentially him having like 3 steal games, like a couple, for a couple games, and it's like boom, like if he has a 3 steal like week, suddenly he's on pace for like 17 steals again or something. Like, so I don't know. I'm not really that concerned because it's not like he's getting caught a lot or anything. Like he has 6 steals and 0 caught stealing. So yeah, I mean, I think, honestly, I'm joking about people still hating on him, but I do think probably people are going to be less against him now because like he's cut his strikeouts, which is like, everyone loves to put look at strikeouts for some reason. I don't know why, because like in today's game, everyone strikes out. So it's not like strikeouts are like the end of a player anymore, like they were like maybe 15, 20 years ago. Like, so, but the fact that Adolis Garcia cut his strikeouts and he's upped his walks, I could see actually him being like, actually like next year, people getting in on Adolis Garcia. And, at that point, he will become terrible.
Yeah, I'm actually probably out on him for next year if he continues this, just because of where his draft position's going to end up being versus
actually,
where it has been.
I could probably see that too, to be honest.
Like he's going to go top 10?
Like finally, I could probably see being out on it. If he's top 10, yeah, I'm out on him.
Yeah, like I'm not drafting him top 10. It was great getting him after like the second round. That was phenomenal. Or even in the second round, I was fine.
No, I like for the last like 2 years, I've been like so excited about Adolis Garcia. But yeah, no, you're right. If he's finally moved into the top 10 for people, yeah, no, I'm
gonna be out.
I'm probably nowhere near him. Yeah,
everybody finally buys in, and the 2 people that have been leading it are jumping the hell off.
yeah, probably gonna have to. Where is he actually? Let's see. Oh my God, on the rest of the season player rater, he's down at 56 overall. I think Steamer needs to reevaluate what they think of Adolis Garcia.
Oh, that's part of the reason he's always been hated is Steamer. Steamer's never been a fan of him. And maybe that's part of the K thing is that like when Ks are high, projection models seem to really ding those guys a lot harder than they necessarily should in today's game, I feel like.
Yeah, I know. Like it doesn't make any sense because like you look at his numbers and you're like, this guy, it's not like this is his star mitzvah. Like he's not breaking out right now. He's not becoming a man in front of our eyes. He's done this for the last 2 years. This is not a new thing. Like Adolis Garcia has been great since 2021. Since he came on the scene, he's been great. So yeah, I don't know. But anyway, let's move on.
Let's move on to Luis Robert, Lou Bob. 26-8, 271 so far. He's 10 games away from having the most games he's had in a season, Gray. This is my issue with him being this high. I do not trust him to stay on the field still. I know he's done it for a half. Like I just don't trust him this high. Like, I would not draft him this high simply because of that. I believe he is a power hitter for average. We think we both discussed that preseason. Like if he's healthy, he's going to hit for average. He's probably going to hit power. The 8 stolen bases is a little surprising, honestly, to me. But like I don't trust him to give me 50 more games.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I don't know. I mean, it's hard to. I mean, that's like an impossible sort of like prediction to make. I mean, it's not like he's banged up right now. So if if he were to get injured, like next week, yeah, I mean, I guess he's once again he has screwed me over. Like in the preseason, I was out on him, and now I'm in on him, and now he gets injured. I don't know. I mean, I guess anything can happen, but at this point, I got to assume he's healthy because, also, as we've seen in the past, a guy doesn't necessarily remain injury prone like his whole career. Like, for instance, like Nelson Cruz, I mean, at one point he was injury prone. And then he shook that label like a long time ago. And then he had he had a good 12 years there where he was fine. And other players have done that too. Like in the past, like guys have, they've busted through that injury prone label and become very healthy and stayed on the field and not had problems. So yeah, I mean, I guess you can say you don't trust him, and I see that. I mean, I get it. Who knows? I mean, maybe he won't stay on the field in the second half, but at this point, I got to assume he's going to be okay. So I don't know. We'll see, though. I don't know. Who knows?
Fair enough. I just wanted to bring it up because I know we talked about it in the preseason. We talked about it at a number of times where he has failed to stay on the field, but it does look like this year might be different. Maybe he finally got into some stretching and won't pull his hamstrings, over 6 times over the course of a week. That'd be great to have him finish a full season and get those numbers from him finally. Jose Ramirez, aka Lane Thomas, comes in at number 8 for you. I mean, great. He literally has the same line as Lane Thomas, and he's number 8 versus Lane Thomas not being on here.
Yeah. Actually, now that I look at it, the rest of the season player rater, I didn't do this intentionally, but Jose Ramirez is number 8 on the rest of the season.
So you just pulled Rudy's rest of season numbers? Is that what you're telling us right now?
Yeah. Apparently.
Rudy's like, Lane Thomas is 356, so you better get him down there somewhere.
No, I think Lane Thomas was around 105, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. I didn't really I didn't look at the rest of the season player rater much doing these rankings. I did look at at what players had done more than what they were going to do according to the player raters. I conferred occasionally, but not I didn't look at it a ton. Anyway, Jose Ramirez, I mean, it's just track record, he could have if there's one guy who could have a 12 homer 12 steal month, I mean, that's basically that would put him on pace with a top 25 second half if he had a month like that. I don't know. I mean, it's hard for me to look at Jose Ramirez and be like, I mean, he's been so consistent for so many years. We're looking at a guy now that's been consistent for 7-8 years. I don't know. I mean, I don't think there's not a ton for me to say for Jose Ramirez why I think he's going to be much better in the second half than he was in the first half, other than he's done it for he's done it so many years in a row now that it's why not trust him to do it again? And he hasn't been bad. In the first half of let's see, I don't even know, where is he? So he's at 23 overall for the first half on the player rater. So that's what he did do, which is, I mean, 20. If you were to get a guy at in the top 10 overall and say you're going to get a return of top 25, you would take that, wouldn't you? I mean, that's still good.
Yeah, I mean, you're taking like the top 2 rounds is really because they shouldn't fall beyond like the top 50. Like
Right.
those top 2 round guys, even if they aren't 1-2 for you, they should be within the top 50. There should be minimal slide amongst them.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that Jose Ramirez has been bad. I more or less point out that Lane Thomas is literally doing the exact same thing, but better, and he's younger. But yes,
That's
Jose
funny.
Ramirez has done this
That's
for
funny
forever.
that
Like
you
there's
did
track record.
someone also someone one of the Patreons did you see the comment? One of the Patreons talked about Lane Thomas too. Is that why I feel like Lane Thomas has become a thing.
I own Lane Thomas in like half of my leagues, so this is really why I'm like beating the drum. It's like I need him to keep doing what he's been doing. I don't need him to
Yeah.
become
It's
like the
actually it
235 Lane
actually is
Thomas.
true. It's truly incredible that like I don't think a lot of people would guess that Lane Thomas has been as good as Ozzy Albies for
Yeah,
the year so far. That's pretty incredible. I feel like most people, if you were to like poll people and say to them who's been better in the first half, Ozzy Albies or Lane Thomas, I feel like you'd get a 95-5 split. Like I don't think a lot of people, maybe even 99
more. Yeah,
1. Yeah.
it'd be
Like
me. I'd be literally like Lane Thomas.
yeah.
Lane Thomas has
And
been awesome.
in the end, they would actually be right because Ozzy Albie is a little bit
It's
better than Lane
slightly better,
Thomas. But
guys.
I mean, but they are essentially they're the same. Like
Yeah,
I think if most people actually here's a different one. If you were to say to people Lane Thomas or Wander Franco,
yeah.
people would be like, yeah, absolutely Wander Franco.
That's the one I was
Wrong.
going to go with.
Yeah. Or if you were to say Marcus Simeon and Lane Thomas, people would be like, yeah, Marcus Simeon. I think a lot of guys who have been worse than Lane Thomas, you could look at him and be like, yeah, definitely Lane Thomas is actually worse. And you'd be like, wrong. You're
Yeah,
wrong.
Tatis, Jose Ramirez, Kyle Tucker, Bo
Bo,
Bichette,
Bo
like
Bichette.
Julio Rodriguez. Like these
Yeah.
are people who have had great seasons, and they're still like Lane Thomas is having the best season he's ever going to have.
I
I'm
know.
assuming.
I wrote a
Um,
I wrote a freaking Lane Thomas sleeper post in 2022.
mhm. You were a season early, Gray. I
I
remembered
was
it because I
season
drafted him
early. I
because of it.
loved Lane Thomas last year. I ended up drafting him in a couple places this year because I did love him so much last year that I'm in on Lane Thomas too. Like I'm not this is top 100 slash Lane Thomas discourse. The Lane Thomas discourse. Everyone everyone who's listening to this is like, Lane Thomas?
Like, why are we still talking about him? Move on. And so, yeah, that's what we're going to do. We're going to move on. And we're actually going to talk about guys who I just mentioned Bo Bichette, Wander Franco, Kyle Tucker, Julio Rodriguez. I feel like all these guys, they're all kind of in the same realm. I just wanted to give you, some
Yeah.
grief about having Bo over Wander, Tucker. J Rod's been okay, but he has not been like to the level of like Wander, Tucker, Bo, Lane Thomas. Like he's not had his best season in his second season.
Who has another best season?
J Rod. Like Julio Rodriguez has
Oh,
just not been
yeah.
amazing. He's still been good. Like you're
Right.
not dying because of him, but he hasn't put up
No.
like 280, 30-30.
No, definitely not. And again, it shows you like the good players how good they really are because Julio Rodriguez has had an off year and he's at 30 overall on the player rater. It's like, it's kind of it's like are you kicking that out of bed? Like, it's like no, it's not as good as you wanted. Like you wanted basically what you're getting from Acuna, but are you really that upset about it? I mean, I could see Julio Rodriguez potentially sliding a little bit next year in drafts if he has like a second half similar to his first half, and I'm going to be all in on Julio Rodriguez. Whew.
Yeah.
I,
And I
yeah.
will say in
I mean,
your
if he goes like after 10 overall, like if he's anywhere after 10 overall, whoo boy, I'm in on that.
yeah, jump on the team. You're riding along with me. Now I have to point this out because this is my guy. We've been arguing about him. pretty much the whole time that he's existed in Major League Baseball. Bobby Witt Jr., your write-up says he's not Acuna or J-Rod. Well, he's definitely not Acuna. I can agree with that. But he is basically what J-Rod has been. Almost exactly, if not better. So, just wanted to point that out from the comment in the write-up there. We'll move on. Yordan Alvarez, he falls out of the top 20 just barely. Is this all injury related? He's going to be a stud when he's back.
Yeah. No, I think Yordan Alvarez is probably like there's very few guys who could hit, say, 20 homers in the second half, and Yordan Alvarez is probably, he's one of them. I just don't know how many games he's going to play. I'm concerned because he had the oblique. I think he's going to be good to go, like almost as soon as the second half starts, if not immediately, like soon after. But anytime a guy has an oblique, if that reoccurs and he misses like the month of August, it's like that's the end of the second half for you. I mean, then he's worth nothing. If like he were to have a reoccurrence of the oblique when he returns and he misses August, then he's basically droppable in shallower leagues for, if you have no IL room. Hopefully that doesn't happen. I don't want to, jinx him, but I'm just saying he's great, but who knows?
Yeah. And, we kind of acknowledged it in the preseason. That's kind of I feel like that's the drawback on him versus some of the other top, mashers in the game is he's never put up more than 144 games. That's his max that he's done. And 144 is generally going to be fine. But I just don't know if we're ever going to get that full season out of him at some point. I know, it's one thing to have random injuries, but he kind of, I don't know. He just seems to miss just enough time each season to kind of have to fill in for him for a few weeks. Not the end of the world, though.
Too, because there's very few guys I think who are capable of 50 plus homer seasons, and he's one of them. But he would need to play like 145 plus games, and getting him on the field for those games has been a real struggle. So instead, he's looked more like a 35 to 40 homer guy versus the 50 homer guy. But, as we saw with Aaron Judge, speaking of injury prone guys, like he was injury prone for the longest time and then stayed healthy last year, and everyone saw what he was capable of when he stayed on the field. And now again, he's injured.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just one of those things where hopefully they can kind of figure out the right balance of like working out, resting, being on the field, and some of it you just can't avoid. Sometimes you just get some of those bad luck injuries, and that's going to happen. But like we saw it with, like Judge's teammate Stanton for years, it was like he's not going to give you 150 games, and it's really hard to put up 45 home runs if you're not going to be in 150 games. It's just how it kind of goes as far as the playing time and how our game is concerned. But yeah, just chasing that magical Yordan season where he stays healthy. I mean, I said Lubov couldn't do it, and he's currently proving me wrong. So it does happen, especially as players kind of find their way in the league and get accustomed to everything. Let's move on to some of the items that are kind of player rater versus your ranks here. These are some of the biggest differences, and some of these are pretty obvious. A lot of these are like playing time or call up or injury related. Oneil Cruz is obviously injury related. Right now, last I saw, it was sometime in August. It does feel a little bit high to have him in here in the top 100 if he's not going to return until mid-August. But we also know what he can do in like a week. So is that why he's up here? Is just like in that month that he's healthy, he could put up numbers that other people can't do in 3 months?
He's like, I mean, I would say he's probably like an easy 15. Like if anyone's going to do like a 10 homer, 15 steal month, it would be Oneil Cruz. Like he's capable of like, everything we're seeing from Elly De La Cruz. It's like Elly De La Cruz is the new Oneil Cruz. I wish I would have drafted Elly De La Cruz instead of Oneil Cruz. Yeah, I mean, Oneil Cruz is just like, if he comes back, assuming like he's healthy and he's able to run, yeah, I would put Oneil Cruz, like if we were, re-ranking on August 5th or 12th or whenever he comes back. Like you say he comes back August 15th. If we were re-ranking August 15th when he's back, I would put him in the top 15 overall. So, it's like you put him in the top 100 towards the end of the top 100 and hope that he comes back early or something, because I think he's still like going to be he's still a great player. It's just a matter of him being healthy.
Yeah, and I do wonder, the Pirates have certainly fallen off a little bit from their hot start to the season. I do wonder when he comes back if they kind of, have him in and out of the lineup a little bit, not necessarily play him every day, kind of just get ready for next season. That's another concern I have with him. But you're right. Like, if anybody's going to put up a massive couple weeks or a month, like Oneil Cruz is one of the names at the top of that list for sure. Colton Cowser, Jordan Walker, Elly De La Cruz, these are all prospects that got called up. Is that's really the reason, like the player rater versus where they're ranked at right now, right?
Yeah, I think upside with like Cowser, for instance, like I think his upside alone, he's probably the last big call up. I would guess. I don't think anyone else is really going to get called up.
Your boy Encarnacion Strand, if he ever gets out of the doghouse in Cincinnati.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, if I was Cincinnati, I mean, I agree. For fantasy purposes, Encarnacion Strand, I want him up. But the Reds aren't doing badly, so it's like it's hard to fault a team that's winning and being like, oh, you should be doing this instead. It's like, yeah, I mean, they're still winning even without Encarnacion Strand, and like who's getting benched indefinitely with CES. The CES comes up, who goes to the bench indefinitely? I don't know if anyone does. Now, if they were to say like trade someone for like an arm, if they were to trade like a bat for a pitcher and then bring him up and he has an everyday job, yeah, I mean, Encarnacion Strand would probably be one of the top call-ups still in the second half. But yeah, I don't think we're seeing many other guys that are going to really make a difference. Anyway, with Cowser, yeah, I mean, Cowser was called up. We didn't really discuss his call-up, I don't think.
No, that was this week.
I think he's like so he's got like basically power and speed, and makes great contact. My one concern with Cowser and also Westberg and Gunnar and Mountcastle, the Orioles incredibly have a lot of bats. they don't have much room to be playing guys like so Cowser could potentially have issues with playing time, which worries me a little bit. But I think they're going to play him every day. That's my guess, at least. If not, he'll at least play against all righties. So, yeah, I like Cowser a lot. I think he's probably he's capable of a top 100 second half. Whether or not he does it, I don't know. I think he's also if he does well in the second half, he could be one of those guys like we saw with Corbin Carroll, going into this year, where Cowser could be a top 70, top 50-ish guy going into next year. Cowser could definitely be one of those big prospects that gets drafted, crazy early next year. Jordan Walker, I want to say he was going at 75, 80 overall by the time, or Anthony Volpe, they were going around there at the end of the preseason when everyone knew for sure that they were going to be in the lineup and they made the team. I think they were going around 75 overall. I could see Cowser being similar. His upside is great. Got great power and speed, makes good contact. So yeah, I'm fine with a flyer towards the end of the top 100. If you're looking at, just the like Cowser or Gleyber Torres, who's also at the very end of the top 100. Like, I mean, maybe they're like they get injured or they're not doing well like by mid-August and they become droppable. That's possible. Or they have such good upside. I mean, they could easily be top 100 guys in the second half. So it's like, it's just kind of like working in some upside towards the end of the top 100. Like I said, to start off the podcast, there's a really Cowser or a guy who isn't even on the top 100 easily you could flip flop them. Like, if you want to say Lane Thomas is where Cowser is, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that.
All right. Now I want to specifically ask you about Elly because you love him so much. I thought for sure there was no way he was going to be this far down. I thought he was going to make like your top 20, if not top 10, honestly. If you would like just asked me where he was going to fall. And really, over the last month, he's been sixth on the player rater. So it's really not like a far-fetched statement that he should be top 20. I know some people were like, top 20, come on now. Let's be serious. But seriously, like over the last month, he's sixth on the player rater. He didn't even play that whole month. So, like, I'm surprised that you had him where you had him, Gray.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I do love him.
Which is 45, which is still good.
And I do really love him. I just feel like right now, looking at his numbers and trying to put aside of how much I love him, like he has 4 homers, which isn't bad. I mean, it's fine. 4 homers in 30 games. So, we're thinking, so that's like a 20 homer pace over the course of a full season, but that's fine. I mean, it's not bad. So he's not hitting. He can hit for so much power. I mean, he is capable of a top 20 type second half. Absolutely. I just feel like his BABIP is high. His Ks are a little bit high. His power hasn't been there in a way that's like got me, moving him that far up. I mean, I could see a potential 15 homer, 30 steal second half. I mean, as we saw in that game over the weekend, like he stole second, third, and home. Like that's ridiculous. Like, so I mean, you have a guy that and he can beat out a grounder to first base, so he's gonna have a high BABIP. Like I do love him. I don't know where I'm gonna be with him in like the preseason next year. It's gonna be a tough call. He's probably gonna be higher than this, but I'm just concerned at some point. I'm concerned there could be a adjustment period, which we haven't seen yet. Like at some point, do major league pitchers adjust to him and bring him down? Because like he was adjusted on even in the minor leagues. Like he had issues there was like weeks there in the minor leagues where he struggled to make contact. So maybe major league pitchers figure him out a little bit in the second half. That's all. I was just, I was being kind of conservative with him, but he could easily be a top 20 guy.
All right, fair enough. I'm probably gonna have him higher, or I would have him higher than you have him. I'd probably have him somewhere in the Cedric Mullins range. Like if you told me that he and Cedric Mullins have the exact same line rest of the season, but yeah, that kind of makes sense. Now you're right. There could be an adjustment period that certainly does happen with young players, but I feel like that happens more. I don't know. I feel like it happens more in the second season for guys who kind of come up mid-season than it does during the season necessarily, but we could definitely see a drop at some point.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's just where I'm thinking. I'm thinking Cedric Mullins, like 8 to 10 home runs, 10 to 15 steals. Like that seems like the right range for him, but he does come with more risk, so I get it.
Mullins and him are like basically they're the same exactly in my mind, except Mullins has a little bit more of a track record. Really, that's it. Yeah.
Yep, that's fair.
Yeah.
Dalton Varsho is on this list of people who you have the biggest differences in player rater. Is this strictly because you hate the catcher position?
Yeah, I mean, I was like, I was basically like, I felt like I had to put a catcher or two in the top 100, and if you're looking at catchers for a second half, I mean, I guess Sal Perez could have like a monster power month or something, but in just the second half, and only in like the like last 70 games or whatever they have, whatever Varsho has left, or JT Realmuto, who is the other catcher I have in the top 100. Like, just because like they actually have power and speed, I felt like they have a better chance of getting into the top 100. Where like, if Sean Murphy or Sal Perez or Francisco Alvarez or any catcher has like a good power month, they could easily be the best catcher for the second half. Or Jonah Heim, who's actually been the best catcher, who is like never gets talked about. He had a great first half. Actually, oh no, Sean Murphy has overtaken Jonah Heim in the last.
He was the number one.
I guess in the last week, because I think last time I looked at this, Jonah Heim was number one. But whatever the case is, I think it's like catcher is such a fickle position that it doesn't take much to have like the top catcher second half. It just a matter but because of like JT Realmuto and Varsho both give power and speed, I felt like they had the best chance of giving the best like catcher second halves. But yeah, Will Smith could be the best catcher in the second half. I don't know. Wilson Contreras. He could have a great second half. Yeah, it's hard to say.
No, that's fair in regards to the power speed. I really didn't even think about it from that angle. I was just like, you know what? Varsho's been freaking terrible this year, and he still made the 100. So it was just a big difference between where he's currently player rater versus where you have him ranked. I kind of thought it would be Will Smith or Sean Murphy, because we talked about how Will Smith is the safest catcher. Like, he just does what he does every year.
He does, and it's also like Will Smith right now is he's the third best catcher, but he is really consistent. And that is, let's see, I don't even know. Let's see where he is. Oh, so he's at 100 overall. Will Smith is. So that shows you like how bad catchers have been this year. That like Will Smith is the third best catcher, and he's at 100 overall on the player rater. It's not. I mean, it's not great. It's fine. I mean, it's not bad. But Will Smith has been as valuable as Lourdes Gurriel Jr. and Brandon Nimmo. I mean, anyone getting upset that Brandon Nemo's not in the top 100? It's like,
yeah, that's totally fair. And for those of you who drafted catcher early this year, Realmuto's 170, Varsho's 223. Please, oh God, stop drafting catcher so early.
Yeah, it's also like one guy who like Ryan McMahon is in the top 100 on the player rater. I noticed that the other day because he's like one of those guys that everyone wants to drop. Ryan McMahon. He is Ryan McMahon.
He's Lane Thomas, except we're already bored of him. Like, we got bored of him like 3 years ago.
Yeah, I know. How about how awful Trea Turner's been in the first half? I mean, I wonder where he's going to go next year. Like, if he has the same second half as he had in the first half, are people going to be like comparing him to like being like, well, him or Whit Merrifield? Like, is that how far he's going to fall in preseason ranks? It's going to be interesting to see with Trea Turner, because I mean, I still have a little bit of hope in my rankings for the second half, where I have him at 25 overall. But if he has another if he has a second half like his first half, I could see Trea Turner falling to like in the 40s or 50s overall in the preseason ranks next year.
I will own so much Trea Turner if that happens, Gray. It will be absolutely absurd the amount of Trea Turner that I have if that happens.
Where do you think? Okay, maybe I'm being too conservative. Where do you think he fall if he has the
No, I
same?
think you're right. Like, I think you're right, but I'm just saying, like, when that happens, when the group think moves to like Trea Turner's cooked, I'm gonna have so many shares of the bounce back year because I'm positive it's coming. Like the numbers in general look pretty much like what he's been doing for the last 4 or 5 years, where he was, a consensus top 10, top 5 pick. Like none of the numbers really look out of place. His sprint speed is still like elite. I'm just not worried about Trea Turner.
It's
I
also
feel like
crazy
it's
that
coming.
there's so much I don't know if we're on pace to have as much offense as 2019, but there is so many good hitters that you look at Trea Turner's year and it's like Trea Turner's on pace for a 20 homer, 35 steal season, and he's going and I'm talking about him falling to like 40 overall. That's a lot of offense, man.
It is.
It is. Like I don't know if we've really talked that much about how like offense is crazy right now. Like I mentioned briefly in the opening how like the top 50 on the in the top 100, the top 50, like the top 50 hitters they're so good. I don't think we've talked about one pitcher so far today.
Well, the pitchers weren't as like divisive. You tended to rank like the good pitchers high, and like so there just didn't seem like there was as much to talk about in that time frame. I will say in regards to the offense, we're not at 2019 levels. At no point really in this season were we at 2019 levels. We're more like 2021 levels, which is still, I think it's like 2,000 more runs than what we had last year. So still significant, amount more
Super,
offense,
yeah, super.
but
It's an
not
uptick from
2019.
last year, right?
2019
Yeah,
was so
yeah,
dumb.
yeah. 2019 was insane. Yeah, I guess last year was such a down year that it was like that is stuck in my head that like that has made me forget how insane 2019 is because last year was so nuts. But yeah, no, this has still been like to talk about pitchers, even just briefly in general, like there's so many pitchers right now that are like kind of
Oh
and
yeah.
there's a lot of like I mean like there was moments where I was like like Joe Ryan made the top 100 and he had a terrible like last couple starts. Like he could be like droppable by like mid-August, and I have him in the top 100 because I still believe, and he's still got a great K strikeout to walk ratio. So like Joe Ryan still looks great. But also, I mentioned briefly Justin Verlander. Like his peripherals are awful. Like he looks bad. Sonny Gray, another guy in the top 100, like he had a terrible last start. Like his last start was awful. But it's like what like who do I put like who is worthwhile? Who's more worthwhile than like their peripherals look good, It's like I'm not putting Marcus Stroman in the top 100. It's like I don't know, like some guys like Jose Barrios, like I don't know. Like pitchers, like there's really like even the top pitchers, like the Nathan Eovaldis of the world. take that clip and play it to someone like last year, and they'll be like, "What? Nathan Eovaldi is a top pitcher?" Yeah, so like the Nathan Eovaldis of the world aren't even that good. So I mean, I don't know. And also in like the second half, just the nature of the fact that most pitchers are going to throw maybe 12 starts. Like there's not a ton of starts left. Like guys just aren't going to be able to throw that many starts. Like how many starts, or maybe 15? Like there's not. I don't even know what's the I don't have the numbers in front of me, but like Spencer Strider, let me look.
I would guess most pitchers have somewhere between
He's
10
got
and 15 starts left.
10 to 15, right? So Strider has right. So he had because like I basically just assumed like I assumed anywhere from like 10 to 13.
Yeah, say 15 is probably very high. Like
yeah, like I assume 10 to 13. And then you have guys like Spencer Strider, who I think is the best pitcher in baseball. Like just like pound for pound, his stuff is better than anyone. So I basically I put him down for like he was the top pitcher in the for my second half rankings. I put him down for 71 innings, which is like basically 12 to 13 starts because like if the Braves are running away with the division, which I imagine they are, why are they why are they pushing Strider to throw more innings in September? So that's going to hurt his overall numbers. So I mean, he's even like he's the best pitcher and I don't even know if he throws like a full, second half. Like I'm not saying they're going to shut him down like September 1st, which I kind of think they should, but but I don't think they're going to go quite that far. But they may shut him down like with maybe two starts to go in September just to like get him ready for the playoffs because I mean the Braves are obviously making the playoffs and they're not going to. I mean Strider is like he's more or less their entire rotation. So, I mean, they're really going to be like, they're going to be kid gloves with him. If I were them, at least I would be kid gloves with him. I don't know. Maybe they push him more than I think, but if anything, I think he's going to get shut down at some point in September. But with that said, I still think he's the best pitcher because at least his stuff is really good. Like Shane McClanahan's my number 2 pitcher, and he's not even healthy right now. He's not even like he's on the IL. I mean, I think it's a fake IL stint just to like rest him because I think the Rays are smart enough to realize that they're going to be in the playoffs and they want McClanahan to be healthy. So I think they're just resting McClanahan, but still, I mean, it's not great when the second best pitcher, according to my rankings, is not even like healthy, quote unquote healthy at least.
Yeah, and the Rays have had their trouble with starting pitching this year. That's for sure. So they need to get through the rest of the season with what they have intact, and hopefully not lose anybody more from that.
If I were the Rays or the Braves, I would probably go out and get like if you could get like a Stroman, oh my god, totally. Like a Stroman, or even if you were to able to get even like a lousy pitcher just to pitch in like September, just to be like, you know what? We don't necessarily like Shwamania, but he's got innings that he can throw.
Hey, the Cubs' entire rotation, other than Justin Steele, is on the block. Everybody can go from the Cubs rotation.
Totally, yeah. No, I know. Like if you were the Braves, how quickly would you get Drew Smyly? I would be like, please come throw like as many innings as you can in September because we just need someone to go out there and throw. It doesn't.
If I'm the Braves, I'm probably sending over to the Cubs. Some kind of like Vaughn Grissom for Steele. Like Vaughn Grissom for Steele would happen. Like
Vaughn
like
Grissom, okay. Yeah. Vaughn Grissom for some pitching.
Steele and then like a pitching front like
Stroman. I mean, in fantasy you don't want to do that deal. But in reality, if the Braves can get Stroman, yeah, I mean
that'd help a lot for them.
Yeah.
Just to get through the end of the season, like you're saying, like find the innings because the piecemeal, like calling up guys randomly has not necessarily been the ideal thing for them.
And sometimes like in the second half, continuing on in general terms of pitching, like in the second half too, like if you look at teams like the Phillies, like they might be in the wild card discussion potentially. So if Nola and Wheeler are able to throw, they might actually be in a better place. Like, I know Nola's a mess because of the home runs allowed. I'm not sticking my head in the sand. I know Nola's not great, but I'm saying though, like sometimes pitchers could be better in a situation where, like, if the real life situation is them needing the arm to go, Wheeler and Nola could be like actually, good if the Phillies need them to throw, whereas the Braves don't need Strider to throw. So it's just like it's a tough, like, pitching in the second half it's really tough. I think I mentioned this at one point where, like, I kind of trust the relievers more than the starters right now, which is bizarre, but I don't know, like we saw with Josh Hader last year, he had a terrible second half, so he really fell off. So I'm not saying like closers can't like have terrible second halves and just not be good, but the closers right now look really good. Like the Batistas and the Haters and the Devin Williams, like, who else? Alexis Diaz.
And their roles are set. Like they're not going anywhere.
Right.
Even if
Yeah.
the
And
team sucks,
they're
they're not going to shut down a closer.
Right, exactly. Yeah, no one's shutting down a closer. Exactly. Like, unless they get injured, which, hopefully they don't, but if they're healthy, why, it's not like anyone's talking about shutting down Raciel Iglesias because the Braves are winning. Like, who cares? It's one inning. Like, they're not going to push him and make him throw like 3 games in a row, maybe, but they're still going to let him close games when he's fine.
Yeah, exactly. Regardless of your place, you don't want your closer sitting around doing nothing. Oftentimes, it's the highest paid guy, or it's going to be the highest paid guy at some point as well. And you just don't want to upset them. Like, you don't want to upset the best person in your bullpen or second best for some bullpens, but like you just don't. You want to keep that guy going. We talked about Trea Turner and kind of his disappointment, despite the numbers not actually being that bad. Bryce Harper, 290, 386, 400. That sounds in line until we get to the 400 part. He has 3 home runs, Gray. Like, everything's kind of been there, but the power has just, it's gone. I don't know that it's coming back this year.
Yeah, I don't think it is. I'm kind of convinced it's not coming back this year. I don't know. I mean, you never know. Things could happen, but I mean, why wasn't it there? Like you said, everything else looks in line with his previous years. So why isn't the power there? I mean, you have to assume it's because of the elbow. And, I don't know. Maybe it comes back in the second half, but I don't think so. If I had to bet, I would bet the under on whatever people are saying for his power in the second half. Like, right now he has 3 homers and, other projection systems are giving him like 12 homers in the second half. And it's like, I don't know. Why is he hitting 4 times as many homers in less games? Or I guess, well, he was injured in the first month, so he's probably going to have around the same amount of games in the second half, but still, why 4 times the amount of homers? Is he suddenly going to get healthy? It doesn't seem likely. I don't know. I mean, hopefully he does get healthy, but I wouldn't bet on it.
Yeah, since 2019, he has the lowest barrel rate of his career, the lowest exit velocity, the lowest max exit velocity, the lowest hard hit rate, the lowest launch angle. Like, every single number of his as far as power is down. Again, the number, like the average is still there. The on base is still there. He's actually stealing more bases than I thought he would. I just thought, like, they're not going to let him run, period. Like, why would you let him do anything? But yeah, like the power numbers across the board are as bad as they've been in 4 years, 5 years. Like, I don't see it coming around. 8-degree launch angle when he's normally at a 13, 14. That's showing something's wrong for me.
Yeah.
Jose Altuve, he's actually been fine when he's been on the field, but he's just been injured a lot. This is the risk of drafting an older player. 32 games, though. He's hit 6 home runs, 5 stolen bases. He's hitting 264, 371. He does jump up quite a bit on your second half rankings because he missed some time. Are you comfortable with Altuve as your second baseman here, or is this like I'm doing it, but I'm holding on to that second baseman I picked up too?
I think if you have an IL spot, I have no problem even going out and trading for Altuve because he has. I mean, I think in 2 months, like if he comes back and he's healthy for August 1st, in 2 months he can be a number one second baseman still. I think like he can be as good as anyone in 2 months. So assuming he's healthy, assuming he's fine, I have no problem going out and acquiring Altuve. If anything, he's probably a little bit of a buy low right now because no one really wants Altuve. I wouldn't think, at least, because like you said, he didn't have a great first half, and now he's injured. But yeah, I mean, I still believe as long as he's healthy, I think, and I think he's the kind of guy who's like, he didn't have like, unlike Bryce Harper, like Altuve's injuries, I think are fine for like, I don't think they're going to be affecting him necessarily, assuming he's healthy. I mean, and that's the risk. I mean, the risk is, whether or not he's going to be healthy, but I think he could be. I think, I think it's fair to I wouldn't necessarily bet the farm on it, but yeah, I think it's a fine gamble.
Yeah, I'm probably a little less in on Altuve just because I feel like he's kind of just banged up this season. I just feel like it's not his season. There's no rhyme or reason for that. As I said though, his production's been fine when he's on the field. So if you're looking for a second baseman, you can kind of wait for it. And like you said, he's going to be about as low of a cost as you can possibly get right now. So you could do worse than trading for him. I don't know that I'm necessarily counting on him producing, but it would be a nice gamble if you have the extra pieces. Xander Bogaerts, he's had 6 home runs in April. He's had 4 since then. 2 in like 9 days in July is a good sign, but I'm kind of worried and we're going to circle this all the way back to Lane Thomas. Like what you were saying about Lane Thomas, like the production may just not be there. I feel like Xander's there. Like Xander's just not. He just isn't producing home runs or stolen bases enough and his average is dropping, which I think both of you and I both said because he left Boston to go to San Diego. Like that's 100% going to happen.
Yeah,
he's a 250, like 8-3 guy rest of the season. It's not exciting.
yeah, no, I hear you. I think I mentioned this in the rankings. Yeah, I did. I was just looking to double check myself. Yeah, because I remember thinking it. I wasn't sure if I wrote it out. Incredibly, everything I think I don't write. But yeah, I mean, as I said in the rankings, like I feel like this is it for Xander Bogaerts. He's either going to pick up his first half and be better in the second half and prove that he's still a top 100 player, or he's going to have a kind of boring second half and and this is going to be it for him, and he's going to be more or less a top 120 to 140 overall player going forward, like next year, and he's never going to be a top 100 player again. Like this could be it for him. And it might be like, like we said in the preseason, like what we were worried about, leaving Fenway hurts the guy. It really hurts a guy's average. It hurts a guy's BABIP, which is going to hurt his average. And it has. I mean, that has really affected Bogaerts. But because he has power and speed, again, it's similar to like what I said with Varsho. With power and speed, like if he can have a 10 homer, 10 steal second half, that's valuable enough for me in a second half to make the top 100. Barely. I mean, I have him ranked barely in the top 100, but still, I think he's like, for now, he's barely a top 100 player. But I could see going into next year and being like, yeah, at this point, I think Bogaerts is more like 130 overall.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Oh, by the way, what and the Padres have him for what, another 9
Like
years?
55 years or so, something like that. Yeah,
Wow,
yeah.
is that bad? I mean, wow.
All right,
You thought the Padres are underperforming in the first half of 2023? Wait till you see the first half of 2041 when they have the exact same lineup.
oh
Ooh.
man, I really wish Carlos Correa's first contract hadn't have gotten canceled. That would have been just so
Oh,
great, just so funny to me right now.
oh my God.
Let's
I,
move to a different category, and this is biggest drops. So like they're higher ranked on the player rater. You've dropped them quite a bit from where they are on the player rater.
mm,
On the top of that list is Francisco Lindor, another high priced, going to be around for a long time shortstop. He's actually done very well on the player rater this year. He's 16th on the player rater, but you're not buying it, Gray.
now, with him, I mean, he's come on better in like the last couple weeks. He's been hot. But I'm really kind of concerned about his BABIP dropping and his speed and all the fly balls. Like his fly balls have really like they've gone up in such a dramatic way that I feel like he's might have become like a 240-ish hitter with going for power and giving up on everything else, which is fine if you're a power hitter. But Francisco Lindor is not really a power hitter, so I don't know, man. I have I have some concerns about Lindor's peripherals. Like his peripherals don't look great to me. Ks are up, fly balls are up, which for some hitters that's fine, but for him, the BABIP dropping and the fly balls going up, I don't know. It's not great in my eyes. Like I'm concerned a little bit about Lindor. But yeah, I mean, he's kind of held it together. I mean, as you mentioned, he's been fine on the player rater thus far. He's definitely put it together in the last like couple weeks, but yeah, he's been good. I mean, overall, he's sitting at what 16 overall on the player rater. So yeah, I mean, he's been solid. I have some issues with the peripherals.
Yeah, I mean 1913 sounds good. 239 does not sound so great for Francisco Lindor, who used to be kind of a 275 hitter, 280 hitter. Pretty much pencil that in, and he's just not there anymore. And to your pretty much agree with what you said. Like he's just selling out for power now. Launch angle is up like 7 degrees from what it's been his whole career, pretty much. That's significant. That's a big difference. And he is swing like the contact's harder, but he's getting less of it. So like it just shows exactly what you're saying. Like he's selling out for power. It's not necessarily going great. Christian Yelich is the next one I kind of wanted to talk about on this dropped list from where they are on the player rater, because Yelich is, and this was maybe one of the more surprising things for me because I look at the player rater pretty regularly. He was number 9 on the player rater, Gray. Number 9, Christian Yelich, the guy that used to seem very normal. If you had told me that was going to happen this year, I probably would have smacked you on the head.
Yeah, I know. And it looks kind of sustainable. It doesn't look awful.
Ron Burgundy?
Yeah, I mean, right? I mean, like his speed is like where it's supposed to be, kind of. Like he doesn't seem like it's sort of like he's really taking advantage of the rule changes, and he's put together a first half that looks similar to what his entire second half was. Like he's on pace for a 2040 season. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. He's just I mean his launch angle is just so bad that I just feel like he's a little bit susceptible to like a low like bad luck. Like like he hits so many ground balls, and that has not changed at all. That I worry that like he's a little bit slump prone, but Yeah, I mean, he's looked good in the first half. I can't deny that.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah,
I
I
mean,
don't
do you
really know where
trust
it's come
him?
from. I don't.
No, I don't either. So it's like, I don't know. I mean, if I'm being honest, I don't trust it. So I
No,
don't.
if it was me, like your ranking of him at 50 even feels a little aggressive for kind of what I would expect for him to bounce back to like where he belongs. But I get it. Like he's been good. Like it's hard to take that away from him. Another kind of name from the past that's bounced back. You know, I'm bringing up both these guys. One's young, one's old as hell. Jonathan India, and then no longer just a Twitter meme, Nick Castellanos.
Yeah, I know. Castellanos too is like, I mean, these guys like Yelich and Castellanos. I mean, they were sort of last year. It looked like both of them were kind of like done,
Just
right? I
get him
mean,
out of
just
here. Let's be done with him.
yeah, like Castellanos especially. I don't know. Like his numbers don't really jump off the page to me. Like not like he's fixed himself either. Like they look okay. Like his BABIP's super high, and he's still like his launch angles drop down, and he's still hitting a lot of ground balls. I mean, his hard hit is better. Like Castellanos is back to. I mean, he seems like he's back to like that old Greek god of hard contact when he would hit like 24 homers and 300 or 295. Like he looks like he's a line drive hitter again, and he's become like what he was kind of like on the Tigers, like when he was
Mhm.
like a 25 homer 290 hitter. Like that's what he looks like he's back to, which is fine. I mean, that's not a bad player. But he doesn't look like he's ever going back to what he was in Cincy, when he was like a near 35 homer guy. Like that seems like that was just a product of Cincinnati and that park. So yeah, I mean, he looks like he he looks solid. He looks like a solid corner outfielder that's potentially going like maybe down a little bit on average in the second half, depending on like the BABIP. But if he gets if he has a 12 homer, 4 steal, 280 second half, that's solid. It's not really super exciting, but that seems in line with what he's capable of.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. I don't know that I count on him for much speed, but he might get a kick in a couple here and there. Um, yeah, I mean, I don't think your ranking of him is crazy. It's just he fit on he did fall from where he was currently at on the player rater. Again, I would probably have him lower if anything than your ranks do. But you can't ignore that he's turned it around this season, and he's not the complete waste of space that we thought he might have been the previous year. Anything on India before we move off the former Reds guys? I mean,
The Reds
or
are
Red, he's still a Red. I mean,
the Reds are the Reds are basically like the Reds are like the Orioles. This makes imagine saying that sentence last year. The Reds are so good; they have so many good players. Except for, well, the Reds pitching is a problem, but yeah, if the Reds hitting had the Orioles pitching, that's imagine saying that last year. No, the Reds. I mean, the Reds hitting is so good because the Reds park is good. Like the Reds have kind of become like what you want the Rockies to be. Like the Rockies, like have a great park, but they just seem to underperform all the time. Where the Reds have a great park and they're doing well, as hitters at least. India's been great. I mean, he's had a solid year. He's had a good bounce back. I think I'm actually in the big picture too. I'm kind of in on India again. Hopefully he doesn't screw me next year because I was out on him this year, but I think he's actually bounced back to the point where I'm excited again about India. I think he's worthwhile again. And that park is just so good.
Yeah, the Reds since June, so basically when they started making their aggressive call ups, they're second in the league in runs scored. Everybody on the Reds has been absolutely great just this last like month and a half. Let's talk about a couple pitchers here since we hadn't really discussed them, and we discussed Nate Eovaldi. I was honestly surprised he didn't drop further. I thought you'd have him down or maybe not even in this listing, but we're already at the second most innings in his last 6 years, which is pretty much the time after he had his major injury. He's never been this good. He's never put up innings. I just don't trust Eovaldi, but I understand it's kind of you can't ignore what they did in the first half type of thing. And then the other one is Mitch Keller, who if you told us at the beginning of the season, like we're gonna look back and in the top 10 at the break, you're gonna see Nate Eovaldi, Zach Eflin, and Mitch Keller. Man, you could have won some serious money. You could have won so much money on that bet there, Gray.
Yeah, I mean, Mitch Keller, honestly, Mitch Keller's like, he looks good.
He looks real. He looks like the Mitch Keller I've been waiting for.
I know. Like, Mitch Keller, I mean, I guess it's only been, this is his third year. So that is like the standard breakout time for pitchers. So maybe we were just rushing him a little bit, and it was just taking him a little bit of time. But yeah, Mitch Keller looks excellent. Like his peripherals, like Mitch Keller, like as you mentioned with Eovaldi, like it's a little bit of like what a guy has done this year and why he's he's looks like Eovaldi has looked great this year. So I'm giving him a little bit of a buy and being like, okay, well he's been good this year so far. So you know what? Let's assume he's going to continue being good. Whereas Keller actually looks really good. Like Mitch Keller looks like he has become a top 20 starter. Like even looking forward to like 2024, like Mitch Keller looks like he could do this again. Where Eovaldi feels like he's going to be overrated next year, no matter where he's drafted.
Yeah,
it's like I feel like there's no way I'm drafting Eovaldi next year. But Mitch Keller looks like he could be potentially an ace next year. So yeah, I'm pretty excited about Mitch Keller. And who was the other name?
I hadn't brought him up yet, but Zach Eflin is now the other name. And I bring in doing this for our boy Cool Whip. Like he's just been on the Zach Eflin train since the start. And Zach Eflin cracked the top 5 starting pitchers for the first half, as we kind of just teased a little bit there. Like Zach Eflin, top 5 starting pitcher first half, Gray.
Wow, right? I know. That's so
what
crazy.
Where are we? What happened?
I don't know, man.
What is going on?
Yeah, I mean, I think we really got to start looking at like I think the Rays. Anyone who throws off of the mound in Tampa Bay. Yeah, no, I think we got to start looking at like walks and like if a guy, because one thing these guys all have in common, at least these three, is their command is really good. Eflin's command is excellent. Eovaldi's always had great command. And Keller's really dropped his walk rate and he's had better command this year than he's ever had. And he was always a good command guy coming up through the minors. He's finally figured it out in the majors. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, maybe it's just these 3 names that we're discussing. That is why I'm looking at like their walk rate. But Eflin's, I mean, Eflin was always anyone who's going to have like a 1.3 walk per 9. I mean, they're going to be interesting in some way, even if it's like a 7 K per 9. But Eflin's up to a 9.2. So yeah, I mean Eflin actually looks like he's getting a little bit unlucky on his ERA. Like he looks like he's even better than it appears. Like Eflin looks like. I mean, again, I guess I don't know if he's going to be in the top 20. I could see though Eflin being around like where Logan Webb went this last preseason. Like I could see Eflin being in that range potentially. Like he looks like at worst he's going to be in like maybe the top 75, maybe top 80 overall. I don't know, maybe even higher. It depends on what he does in the second half, obviously. But he looks really good, Eflin.
Yeah, no, he's looked great. He's made change. Like we talked about going to the Rays and kind of joked about it, but like the Rays identify what your pitches are, and then they tell you to lean into them. They don't have you throw 5 pitches to throw 5 pitches. He
No.
cut down the fastball usage. He's throwing the cutter more, and he's throwing the curveball a ton. He's throwing the curveball 30% of the time right now. The most he's ever thrown it before was 20%, and that was like last year. Like
Yeah.
this is a
It's
pitch that
so,
they want him
I
to
mean,
use.
and when you look at it, it's like, I mean, Cool Whip, he brought it to he brought it to our readers' attention in January. But if you're the Rays, I mean, you look at this, I mean, it's kind of hard to see how other teams didn't see it because, like, if you have a 92-mile-per-hour fastball, why would you throw it 60% of the time as the Phillies were having Eflin throw it? Like, what are you
And a
doing,
straight
man?
92-mile-an-hour fastball at that. Like,
I know. It's like, it's so obvious, like, in retrospect. And it doesn't even need you didn't even need retrospect really because like I said, like Kula mentioned it in January, like he wrote up a post about it. It's so obvious. Like the Rays obviously were like, yeah, this guy has really he has really good stuff aside from the fastball. So why is he throwing the fastball? It doesn't make any sense, dude. Like it makes no sense. Like and it's kind of like what we've said this so many times previously, but like a guy doesn't need 5 pitches. If he has 2 good pitches, then throw the good 2 pitches. That's all you need. Like you're only seeing, especially with the Rays, I mean, you're seeing like the order, maybe you're getting through like two and a half, 3 times in the order, if that. I mean,
yeah.
barely, you know?
Yeah, no, just the teams would just manage their pitching better,
Yeah.
understanding how these things work, not letting them go out for the seventh inning and get rocked. Like that's what the Rays do, and they're very successful at it. So
Yeah.
hats off the Rays, and Eflin's been great. Like I'm buying his changes, and he's looked phenomenal within the season. So
Yeah.
I really wanted to kind of make fun of him, but like you really can't come after him because he's been great. Gray, we're on an hour and we're going on an hour and a half now. So
Okay.
we got more names here, but like I'm not gonna get it to us. Is there anybody else that you want to kind of bring up within your ranks that you want to discuss, like why you have them, why you didn't rank them, anything like that?
Nah, I mean, I don't know. I think a lot of the ranks are more or less self-explanatory. I mean, if guys like Jose Barrios, who wasn't in the top 100, I didn't put him in the top 100 because he scarred me so bad last year.
Yeah, we're never gonna do that again. That just doesn't matter. He could become, I don't know, Corbin Burns or Max Scherzer. It's not gonna matter. He's never getting that again.
It'll never matter.
Never.
Yeah. Like there's certain guys like I really like I mean, I put in actually late. I put in Blake Snell because I feel like he actually could have a great second half. I didn't have him ranked originally, and then in retrospect, I put him in. No one, yeah. I mean, there was like Justin Turner has been solid, but he's old and he's kind of boring. Like Sean Murphy, who I think Sean Murphy's great, but I don't know. He's a catcher. Who cares? It doesn't matter. Yeah, I mean, there's some guys, and then there's other guys who I'm just like, I feel like there's guys who I wanted, like I mentioned earlier, where I didn't rank 500 guys. I only ranked 100. So there's guys who I actually I like certain players who I just couldn't figure out, who to drop out of the top 100 to move people in. Like, it's just a matter of just not having enough room. At a certain point, it's like, I don't really mind like Brandon Nemo, who I mentioned earlier, or Therio Estrada. I like a lot, but he's injured. Or Leody Taveras he had a solid first half, and I like him. I honestly I do like Luke Raley. I like a lot. I like certain like Jack Slowinski. I like him. I do. I mean, who am I dropping out to get him in? Like, I don't know. It was just a matter of like juggling people at the end. And I had to get Alberto Mondesi in there, of course.
I mean, it wouldn't be a list from Rasball if there wasn't Adalberto Mondesi. The ultimate if he played a full season guy.
What happened to Mondesi though? Really? Like, is he still alive, bro? Where is he?
Still hurt.
Is he still hurt? Oh, yeah. Poor Mondesi.
He's just infinitely banged up, like indefinitely, just never going to come off of.
Oh man,
like he got shut down again.
He is the ultimate. I mean, you're right. You're right in saying like he is the ultimate. If you can get 160 games from him,
it's gonna be insane,
dude. Like if anyone can have like a 30 homer, 80 steal season. in my imagination, it's him.
Yeah. Go full on Ricky Henderson on us. Like he could do it. He has it. Like it's there. Along with just like the general like vibe, I feel like it's like on point there. We get the same kind of thing here.
It's just a vibe, man. You know what? I'm just drafted on vibes.
I'm vibing. That is. I'm on dating apps, Gray, and then like I'm so sick of seeing like I just want to vibe. Like, vibe. What does that mean?
It means they want to draft Alberto Mondesi.
Be like, that's what I'm gonna use from now on, Gray. When a girl just has like, let's just vibe. Be like, I want drafted Alberto.
That'll do so well for you.
I got Alberto Mondesi on all my teams, baby. Yeah, let's go. Vibing.
Instead of a profile pic, what if I sent you a screenshot of Mondesi on my IL slot?
I'm gonna send you pictures of 3 baseball players to give you your vibe. It's gonna be Mondesi, and then 2 guys with the last name Cruz.
Vibes.
All right, great. Let's. I mean, we're in the All-Star break week. But let's give some people some pickups. There's nothing really happened on the bullpen side. There's literally nothing happened this week. So let's give them some pickups and we'll get out of here.
Okay, yeah. So Oscar Colas was called up. I don't think he's done anything since he was called up, but it's kind of interesting. And at least in 15-team mixed leagues, I'm interested there. Alek Manoah was called up, and he's in the same bucket as Jose Barrios. They can both go screw. I'm not even discussing Alek Manoah. Colton Cowser, who we mentioned earlier, he's actually in my top 100. Dom Smith has been hot. Julian Edward Julian hit a home run on Sunday. He's been a little bit hot. Jared Young. He was a little bit hot. The problem with, in general, the problem with like going into the break is guys who were hot may not necessarily be hot coming out of the break. Like Alek Thomas, for instance, he had homered in back-to-back games, and he could be hot, but also, I mean, maybe 4 days off is going to cool him off. So, who knows? Nick Gonzalez on the Pirates, he's been kind of interesting. Hyman Candelario has been hot for like a good 2 weeks now. So yeah, there's some hitter names.
Yeah, and to your point about kind of the break here, and maybe not the guys we've listed here, but there's a couple of guys, especially in deeper leagues, that may be losing a job as we come out of the break. The guys who had phantom IL stints, guys who are getting benched and just getting some days off. Like some of those guys are coming back, and a few of these guys may lose some jobs. So that's another thing to consider as you're making pickups, is just that they're going to have a job come second half. A lot of the pitching matchups aren't out there. I know I've been trying to give you actual matchups that I liked in the week, so I don't really have matchups for you. Bradish and Kramer, Kyle Bradish, Dean Kramer, their ownership is finally climbing, so I will stop giving their names here, but I just wanted to say that it's finally happened. I finally got their ownership to a percentage I'm not going to mention here on the waivers anymore. Ryan Nelson's actually turned it around quite a bit, and he's looking really good in his last like 4 or 5 starts. Nick Pivetta randomly is starting to look good. Matt Manning came back from the IL, and he's looked good as well.
For a perfect game.
Yeah, I mean, he's been.
I mean, not a perfect game.
Not perfect, but
a no-hitter, yeah.
David Peterson has put together like 3 or 4 good starts. Of course, right before that, he got lit up real hard, but that's kind of David Peterson in a nutshell. And Cole Irvin has actually looked pretty good here coming down the stretch as well for the second half. So there's a few names you can kind of monitor in your leagues. As always, if you have specific questions, you can find us on Twitter. I'm at RazBeaton. Gray is, of course, the owner of the @RazBall account. You can also leave us comments on youtube.com/RazBallFantasy. Whether you watch there or listen to us on a podcast, rate, review, comment, all that is appreciated. All that helps. Until after the All-Star break, Gray, enjoy your time off, and I'll talk to you later.
All right, Lates.